There's a word people say out on that sandbar, and it is the most dangerous word in the whole Caribbean. Tame. That is the word. They stand in the warm turquoise water with a wild animal gliding around their legs, an animal the size of a car tire that has never once signed anything. And they look at how calm it is, how unbothered, how it comes right up to them, and they reach for the only word their whole life has given them for an animal that does not run away. Tame. It is tame. It likes people. And she said it that day with a big delighted smile, holding a southern stingray up out of the water in both hands while a friend framed the shot. She said it likes being held, and I want to spend the next while explaining to you, as gently and as completely as I can, everything that is wrong inside that one small word, because the distance between what she thought that word meant and what it actually meant is the exact distance between a perfect vacation photo and the fastest death I have ever stood next to. Welcome back to Doomed Departures. What you are about to hear is a composite story. Every person in it is invented, assembled from years of watching the same delighted confidence make the same small fatal mistake. And I want to be especially clear about that this time, because this is the kind of story people are quick to attach to something they think they already know. And this is not that. This is a dramatization. The people are not real. What is real is the sandbar, the animal, the specific reflex that animal has, and the specific way a wound in a specific place a long way from help becomes something no one on that water can fix. No real person is named. I'm going to call myself Nathan, and the woman Meredith, because she deserves a name and her family deserves not to hear the real one. I have worked that sandbar for a long time, and I need to tell you something about my job that will matter later, because it is the thing the audience never expects. I am not out there fighting wild animals. It is almost the opposite. I am the keeper of an arrangement, a very old and very delicate arrangement between people and these rays, and my entire job, the whole skill of it, is knowing the handful of rules that keep that arrangement from turning into exactly what happened to Meredith. I am not the guy who wrestles the danger. I am the guy who knows precisely where the danger lives, so that 100 people a day can stand in the water with these animals and go home with a photo and their lives. And the days I do my job perfectly are the days when absolutely nothing happens and everyone thinks the whole thing was always going to be that easy. It was never always going to be that easy. It is that easy because of the rules, and she broke the one rule that the entire arrangement is built on. I have had days out there, hundreds of them, thousands, where the biggest problem was a lost pair of sunglasses on the sand. That is what a good day looks like in my job. Nobody claps for it. Nobody makes a video about the day the guide successfully kept everyone boring and alive, because there is nothing to film. And that quiet is not luck, and it is not the animals being nice. It is a thin, careful, invisible thing held together entirely by a few people saying the same few sentences over and over to person after person who mostly believes deep down that the sentences do not really apply to them. Most of the time they are right, because most of the time they never test it. She tested it. Let me tell you where this is. It is a sandbar, a shallow patch out in the Sound off Grand Cayman, where the water comes up only about waist deep over pale sand, and it is one of the most beautiful places you will ever stand. The water is that impossible bright turquoise, warm as a bath, and the southern stingrays gather there in numbers because for generations the boats have come, and the rays have learned that boats mean food. That is the key word, learned. These animals are not tame, and they were never tame. They are habituated. That is a completely different thing, and the difference is the whole story. So I'm going to make sure you have it before we go any further. A tame animal would be one that has changed its nature toward you, that has decided, in some sense, to be safe with you. A habituated animal has changed nothing about its nature at all. It has simply learned that a certain situation is usually worth tolerating. That ray gliding calmly around Meredith's legs had not decided to be her friend. It had learned over a life of boats and hands and food that this particular situation, people in the water, was normally fine, normally worth putting up with, and so it put up with it. Tolerance, not agreement, not friendship, not consent. Every calm second that animals spent near her was a second of an animal tolerating a situation, right up until the situation changed into the one specific thing it will not tolerate. And she was the one who changed it. Here is the arrangement, the actual rules, the ones I say to every group before they ever get in the water. You may touch the rays gently, the way you would touch anything you respect. You support them flat, in the water, with the water still holding most of their weight, one hand underneath, calm and low. And you never, ever, under any circumstances, lift one clear of the water. That is the rule. That is the whole rule. Everything else is detail. And I need to tell you why, because the why is the entire mechanism of what killed her. A stingray is built for the water and only for the water. In the water, it is oriented, it knows which way is up, it is calm, it is in the world it understands. Lift it clear of that water, and you take all of that away at once. Suddenly, it does not have the water holding it. It does not have its orientation. It is a wild animal that has gone in one instant from a familiar, tolerable situation to a completely alien and frightening one, out in the air, gravity pulling at it wrong, nothing making sense. And when that happens, the animal does not get angry, because anger is not really the right word for it. It does not decide anything at all. Its body does a thing its body is built to do when it is disoriented and frightened, which is that the tail comes up, not as an attack, as a reflex. The single defensive reflex that animal has, fired automatically by fear, without any choice or intent, the way your leg kicks when a doctor taps your knee. The tail comes up and forward and over, and on that tail is the barb. I need you to understand the barb because people picture a stinger like a bee has, a little prick. It is not that. It is a hard serrated spine, edged like a saw, several inches long, and it is venomous. And here is the part that matters most. It strikes upward. The whole geometry of the animal, the way that tail arcs when the reflex fires, drives the barb up and in, so picture it. Picture the one situation that turns a calm, tolerant animal into a frightened one, firing its only defense, which is being lifted up out of the water. And picture a person at that exact moment doing the lifting, leaning in over the animal, delighted, holding it up against their own body for a photograph, their chest directly above and in front of an upward striking, serrated, venomous spine driven by pure reflex. That is not a freak accident. That is physics. That is the most predictable thing in the world if you know the rules, and it is why the rules exist, and it is why I say them before anyone gets wet. Now here is the beat that makes this different from every other animal story I could tell you, and I want you to really hear it, because it is the thing almost nobody understands about this place. The danger out there is not really the venom. People fixate on the venom because it sounds exotic, but a stingray wound to a hand or an ankle, the ordinary kind, is painful and serious and almost never fatal, and we can manage it, and people are fine. The danger is not what the barb carries, the danger is where the barb goes, and where you are when it happens. A serrated spine driven upward into the chest is not a sting. It is a deep penetrating wound in the worst possible place, and it is happening to a person standing in waist-deep water on a sandbar that is a 20-minute boat ride from Georgetown, which is where the hospital is. Think about what that means. A wound like that, in a place with a trauma surgeon and an operating room down the hall, is a desperate emergency that a person can sometimes survive. That exact same wound, standing in the ocean, 20 minutes of open water from the nearest road, is a different problem entirely. A problem with no solution available in the place where it occurs. And the difference between those two situations is not the animal and is not the venom. It is the location. She was not killed by a stingray. She was killed by a stingray in the one place on Earth where that particular wound could not be fixed in time. Now let me tell you about Meredith, and I am going to be fair to her, because the lazy version of this makes her a fool, and she was not a fool. She was confident, which is different and much more dangerous. She was good with animals, she said. She had always been good with animals, and I believe that she believed it, and I believe that in every ordinary context of her life, it had even been true. Dogs liked her. Horses liked her. She had a real, genuine, lifelong sense of herself as someone animals trusted, and she brought that sense into the water with her, and it was worth exactly nothing out there, because a southern stingray does not know or care that your dog loves you, and being good with animals is a phrase that only means good with the animals you have met, and she had never met this one. And there is a deeper problem hidden inside being good with animals, one that sits below thinking. A lifetime of animals liking you builds a quiet certainty in your body that animals are things you can read, that you will feel it coming. If one is upset, that your instincts are sound. And your instincts probably are sound for dogs, for horses, for the mammals we grew up alongside and can read in the face. A stingray has no face. You can read. It does not show you. It is frightened in any language your instincts speak. By the time you could feel it coming, in the only way this animal has of telling you, it has already come. Being good with animals had trained her to trust a sense this particular animal does not transmit on, and she trusted it right up to the barb. Rung 1 was the boat. I gave the briefing, the whole thing, support them flat, never lift them clear, the tail is a reflex, and she was half in her own excitement, already looking at the water, and when I got to the part about never lifting them, she gave me the smile. The one I have learned to dread. The warm, slightly amused smile of a person who is being told a rule they have already decided is for other people, for the nervous ones, for the ones who are not good with animals. She was good with animals. The rule was for everyone else. Rung 2 was in the water when she first reached for one and started to bring it up, and I corrected her, right there, gently, hands on it with her, guiding it back down flat, telling her, support it in the water, just like this, keep it low. And she let me that first time, and I thought it had landed. It had not landed. She had simply deferred it, the way you defer a thing you are planning to do anyway when the moment is better. Rung 3 was the photo. She got the ray settled and calm, and she wanted the shot, and she started to lift it up toward her chest, out of the water, and I told her to lower it. Clearly, not a suggestion. Lower it, keep it in the water. And she raised it a little more, because a little higher was a better shot, the pale underside toward the camera. And I said it again, harder, lower it now. And that is rung 4. The same instruction a second time with the fear starting to come into my voice. Because I could see where her hands were and I could see the animal, and I knew what the animal was about to become. There is one more person in this story I have not talked about, and I have thought about her too, because she matters. The friend, the one holding the phone, because Meredith was not lifting that ray for herself, not only. She was lifting it for the lens, for the person framing her, for the moment the two of them had come all this way to capture. And there is a specific gravity in that, a social pull that is stronger than fear. When someone you love is pointing a camera at you and the shot is almost there, the animal in your hand stops being an animal and becomes a prop in a picture you are already imagining showing people. The friend was not doing anything wrong, she was just holding a phone. But the phone was pulling, the whole time, in the exact wrong direction, asking for the pose to be held 1 beat longer, 1 inch higher, and it is very hard to hear a guide over the sound of a photo that is almost perfect. Rung 5 was the last thing I said, and I said it as plainly as I have ever said anything. The tail is coming up, because it was. I could see the change in the animal, the exact change. The shift from tolerating to frightened, the body starting to do the thing the body does, and I said it. The tail is coming up, put it down, and I was already moving, already reaching, and she held the pose. She held the pose 1 second longer. For the photo. Let me stop right there because that 1 second is the hinge of this whole thing, and I need to ask you something, and it is not really about stingrays. When was the last time someone who knew more than you told you, clearly in the moment, to stop? And you did the thing for 1 more second anyway, because you were almost done, because you had almost gotten what you wanted, because surely 1 more second could not matter. Tell me in the comments, because that is the whole of it. She did not ignore me for an hour. She did not argue for a day. She heard me, the expert standing right next to her, say the exact words that would have saved her, and she agreed with them. And she intended to comply, and she gave herself 1 more second first. And the animal did not run on her schedule. The reflex did not wait for the shutter. Everything up to that second was completely recoverable. That 1 second was not. The ray came clear of the water in her hands, and everything I had told them on the boat happened in the order I had told it. The animal lost the water and lost its orientation and went instantly from a calm, tolerated situation to a frightened alien one. And its body did the only thing its body knows how to do when it is frightened and out of its element, and the tail came up. Not in anger. There was no anger anywhere in it. It was the most innocent thing in the whole story, a frightened animal doing a reflex it did not choose, the way it has been doing that reflex for millions of years, and it happened to be doing it at the exact instant a person had lifted it up against her own chest. I am not going to describe the strike, and I want to tell you why, beyond the fact that this channel has a line it does not cross. I am not going to describe it because there is nothing to describe that would teach you anything the mechanism has not already taught you, and because she was a person and not a diagram, and because the people who love her do not need it narrated. What I will tell you is that it was to the chest, that it was fast, that the water around her changed in a way that told me everything before she had even finished falling back, and that I was already moving, and that being already moving was not going to be enough, because the problem was never going to be solved by how fast I reached her. This is where the location becomes the whole story. In the water, on that sandbar, there is almost nothing anyone can do for a deep, penetrating wound to the chest. Not me, not the other guides, not a doctor, if one had happened to be standing in the water beside us, because the tools that wound needs do not exist in the ocean. They exist in an operating room. And the operating room was 20 minutes away by boat across open water, and 20 minutes is a number that means nothing at all for most emergencies and means everything for this one. We got her out of the water, we got her onto the boat, the radio call went out, and it went out fast and clean, and everyone on the other end did everything right, and the boat ran for Georgetown as hard as a boat can run, and none of it was ever going to be fast enough, because the clock on a wound like that does not care how good your radio protocol is or how hard your engines push. The distance was the enemy. The distance had been the enemy the whole time, sitting quietly under the most beautiful water in the world. And nobody thinks about it, because the water is warm and the rays are calm, and the boat ride out was so short and so pretty, and the same short, pretty boat ride run the other direction with a dying person in it is the longest 20 minutes there is. She did not make it to Georgetown. The ruling was what it had to be, stated plainly, a penetrating injury to the chest, with the distance from definitive care an unavoidable factor in the outcome. No exotic venom in the finding, because the venom was never the thing, just a wound in the worst place, in the worst possible spot on the map to receive it. If any of this reached you, then do the small thing that carries it to the next person about to lift a calm wild animal up for a photo. Like this video, so it finds somebody standing on a boat before they get in the water instead of after. Subscribe so you're here for the next one, not for me and not for a number on a screen. Do it so that one more person, somewhere, hears a guide who does this every day say, lower it, and lowers it, that second, without the one more second, and goes home with a slightly worse photo and their entire life. Here is the whole of it, and I have stood in that water a long time since trying to find the words. That animal never agreed to anything. That is the thing I most need you to take from this. It was not tame. It was never tame. And it did not betray her. Because you cannot be betrayed by something that never made you a promise. It tolerated a situation the way it had tolerated 10,000 situations before, right up until she changed the situation into the one it could not tolerate. And then it did the one thing it had left, automatically, without malice, without choice, a frightened creature in the air doing the only thing a frightened stingray can do. The whole tragedy lives inside that word she used at the start, tame, because tame told her the animal had agreed to be safe, and the animal had agreed to nothing. An animal that tolerates you has not signed a treaty. It has just not yet been pushed to the one place where the tolerance ends, and the entire skill of every guide on that sandbar, the whole reason we exist, is knowing exactly where that place is so that no one ever pushes an animal into it. She pushed it into it in 1 second for a photograph after being told, by name, exactly what would happen. And that beautiful water kept its calm the way it always does. That is the last thing, and it is the thing I cannot get out of my head. Within an hour, the sandbar was bright and turquoise and perfect again, the rays gliding calm around the next group's legs, tolerating them the way they tolerate everyone. And there was nothing in that gorgeous shallow water to warn any of them that it had just been the site of the fastest death I have ever seen. Because the danger there does not announce itself. It does not look like danger. It looks like the prettiest, gentlest, tamest place on Earth, and that is precisely the disguise it wears. The water did not change, the rays did not change. The only thing that was ever going to keep anyone safe out there was the one thing she spent for a photo, which was the humility to believe the man who was standing right next to her, telling her the truth, 1 second before it stopped being fixable. Next time we stay in the warm water, but we leave the animals behind for the thing you cannot touch and cannot see, the current under a calm surface that takes the strongest swimmer on the beach while everyone around them is still smiling. Until then, the next time you are somewhere beautiful with something wild that seems to like you, remember what tame really means, which is nothing. Which is a story you are telling yourself about an animal that has agreed to none of it. It is tolerating you. Do not mistake that for permission, and when the person who knows the animal tells you to put it down that second, because the animal does not owe you the extra one. This has been Doomed Departures. Stay safe, and we will see you on the next one.